Hi guys, I wasn't going to do this today because I've already uploaded 3 videos on the topic around the Super Bowl and looking at the stadium in New Orleans and the stadium in Atlanta. Now I'm bringing it over to the UK. So it's currently the 27th of January at 12:30 over here in the UK. And I want to put a warning out for the O2 Arena and the Queen Elizabeth Stadium, which is basically the Olympic Stadium that was used in 2012, where the opening and closing ceremonies looked like satanic rituals, which they most likely were. Um, the reasons I'm looking at this is because I've already looked at it before, obviously the O2, and I also have looked at the Olympic Stadium as well. But I'm going to look at it slightly differently in this video. The O2 Arena, situated just by the River Thames, that doesn't have any meaning in this video, just kind of pointing it out just for a small reason there. What you'll notice is that the O2 Arena is situated next to a university, which is called Ravensbourne University. Obviously, keep that in mind. I think some of you may know where I'm going with this. I think it's fair to say right now that I am essentially I'm still looking out for something to do with the pound coin, the value of the British money today, but I'm not looking out for any explosions or anything. As I said in the previous video, I think I'm shifting that to the same day as the United States, February the 3rd, the day of the Super Bowl. Um, Looking at that day, on Sunday the 3rd of February, playing at the O2 Arena is this guy called Peter Kay. He's a British comedian. Now, keep that in mind, you've got a British comedian and he'll be playing in the O2 Arena, which is next to Ravensbourne University. Now, when you look at the IPEC Go-To video, George Bush represents a number of things and we've interpreted his hat in a number of different ways, but one of those ways is the dunce cap, which is really what it refers to in general. The dunce cap is another name for a fool, and a fool is another name for a comedian. So let's look at the Bush character as representing a comedian. The next character that is represented is done by Obama, and he's wearing the graduation cap. So we have the comedian and then graduation. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, right next to the O2, well, the O2 will be housing a comedian on the 3rd of February next to a university, obviously dealing with graduations at that point. So I'm homing in on this theory here that we've got the UK in this picture, and as I said before, we've got the pound coin here that's been pointed out many times before, and there's an L inside of that. If you can't see it, I'll uh, zoom in. Hopefully it won't slow down or anything too much. So hopefully you can see it there. It's just it comes down and goes across. So you've got the L reference there, and that could represent London. It could represent a time. There's many different interpretations, but because it's inside the pound coin symbol, it's a good bet that it may interpret as London. And then you've got the reference to 23 contained within the shark, which is from here round the mouth and back, and the number 3 comes down the back of the shark like so. February the 3rd is what I'm looking at there. So you've got that, and then the other interpretation I did for New Orleans and for um, Australia, as in Oz, that could also represent Kansas. But you've also got the possible interpretation of it being the number 2, which I have said before in the previous video. So referencing O2, as in the O2 Arena. And then you move on to the next scene, which we've recently been talking about in terms of football, which I've said is a EU reference to basically American football, is basically rugby over here, essentially. But football is a EU term. We use it over here in Britain. And we have the pound coin symbol down here. So there's a clear reference to a UK version of football going on here. And then when the apple splits in the middle, you've got the reference to the number 3, and you've got a lotus flower blooming up, which we all assume is an explosion of some kind coming from underground. And you've got the number 8 in the middle as well. Now, obviously, that is halftime for the Super Bowl on the 3rd of February. But at the Olympic Stadium on the 3rd of February is a match between West Ham and Liverpool, which starts at 8 o'clock. So there may be 2 references there. Something may happen in the UK at 8 o'clock at the Olympic Stadium and at the O2 Arena. Both of those locations here at 8 o'clock, possibly. And then over to the United States, where we have the Atlanta Stadium and the New Orleans Stadium. Both could potentially be hit, or one or the other. These are all just my interpretations, so bear that in mind. But the match between West Ham and Liverpool, West Ham, this football team, is where the explosion for the film The Final Score took place, which I just showed you guys the other day in my video when I was talking about the Super Bowl and showing you references to stadiums being blown up. And this is one of them. And the team that's going to be playing in the Olympic Stadium on the 3rd of February at 8 o'clock is West Ham, whose stadium this is. So again, that was for a film called The Final Score. Take from that what you will. But it's showing a clear explosion going on there, and that was what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So, it's clearly going to be pushed to the back of people's memories. They're not really going to be thinking about it unless they're doing research on it, like you and I. So we can see that that's possibly an event that they've already practiced, similar to how pieces of the ceiling of the New Orleans Stadium, fell off during the match between the Saints and the Rams. Kind of another practice. So while you've got an explosion coming from underground out of the Olympic Stadium or London Stadium, you've got the ceiling collapsing down in the New Orleans Stadium. What goes up must come down. It's like that above and below biblical reference. Again, it's a manipulation. But even as I've talked about this before, when you actually look at the stadium, you can see that the whole geography of it is designed to be like a lady's reproductive organs with I think they're called fallopian tubes, running down the side with the uterus in the middle, and that's from where the birthing, as they would see it, would begin, which would be the explosion. The representation in the iPet Goat video would be the lotus flower or the lily flower blooming. Over here they just have this weird structure that doesn't really serve much purpose, but it's a tool, what's the word? It's a tool structure basically right next to it. I can't think of the word that I wanted to use, but it's right next to it, and it's kind of like, as I said before, penis, uterus. That's how they want to do their whole birthing thing, and it's always next to a river. In New Orleans, I can't do it like you guys, so forgive me. But over there, the stadium is right next to the Mississippi River, so there's references there. The O2 is right next to the River Thames. I can't remember what the Atlanta Stadium is right next to, if it's next to a river. If it's not, the whole city is named Atlanta, which is reference to Atlantis, which is a water city. So, it's all, they've got it, all the stadiums that are under watch are next to a water source. So it's this kind of birthing ritual that they want to bring forward. And we've got this reference to 4 in the iPet Goat video, 4 icicles on the wall, for this, for that. So it could be 4 locations that has been interpreted before as well. But even here, I was just bringing it back to the Dome reference, the Ravens reference, though I've interpreted that as the New Orleans Stadium or the Superdome Stadium in New Orleans. It's also very interpretable. It's not the correct way to say it, but that's how I'm going to use it. It's very connectable to the O2 Arena as well. We have a dome, we have a reference to Ravens. So rather than having a team that played in that stadium, we have a university right next to it. And as I said, the O2 on the 3rd of February, starting at 6:30. Peter Kay, comedian, is going to be performing. Obviously, his show is going to go on for a while, so we can definitely say that his show will still be running at 8 o'clock. The show won't start at 6:30, that's when the doors open. So it'll most likely start at 7, still be running around 8 o'clock. At the same time, over in the London Stadium, we've got West Ham playing Liverpool. Their stadium was used in a film showing a destruction of the stadium, which actually could come into real life. A couple of hours later, while it's like 1 o'clock in the morning over here, it's 8 o'clock in the evening over in the United States, and we've got a lookout for both Mercedes-Benz stadiums in Atlanta and in New Orleans. So you guys, I hope you get what I'm saying here. They've given us this multi-layered conveyed message of sports events, UK football, American football, Super Bowl, West Ham versus Liverpool in the Olympic Stadium in Stratford. References to Ravens and Dome, that goes to New Orleans, Superdome, so you've got both Atlanta and New Orleans now done. And then you've got the reference to the Ravens University and the comedian having an event inside the dome, which again gives you that connection. So yeah, I don't know what's happening, but a lot of information is, I was going to say flowing through me, but it's really kind of coming out of me. I don't even know how to convey it. Honestly, I'm kind of stuck on how to message what I'm seeing properly. But as I said, I hope you guys get what I'm saying. February the 3rd, basically look out for the O2 Arena, the Olympic Stadium, New Orleans Olympics Superdome, and Atlanta Superdome having explosions possibly at all of those events. I think it may be 2 collapsed ceilings and 2 underground detonations. Maybe they want to do it that way. So New Orleans and the O2 ceiling collapse, and the London Stadium or the Olympic Stadium and the Atlanta Superdome underground explosions. Hope and pray nothing happens. You guys have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.